We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Daled Amud Beis in Meseches Gittin. This is Gittin Daf 74b. The Gemara is continuing to discuss what exactly is the machlokas between the Chachamim and Rebbe. And the Gemara says, V'atanya, we learned in a Brisa, as we said in the previous Amud, supporting what we said in the previous Amud, that the machlokas really is between them in a case of Mei Hayom Uli Achar Misa. The Brisa says, Mei Hayom Uli Achar Misa. Again, let's say the husband says to his wife, I'm giving you this get from today, Uli Achar Misa. So what's going on over there? Is that a condition or is it a retraction? Get ve'eno get divrei chachamim. The chachamim say it's a get, but it's not a get, meaning we don't know whether this person retracted or not. Rebbe says no, it's a condition because that get. In this case, it's considered to be a good get. And the Gemara says, Ulu Rav Yehuda do Amar Ba'al Manas Pligi. Now we said earlier that according to Rav Yehuda, who says that really the Chachamim and Rebbe argue in a case of Al Manas, according to Rav Yehuda, the machlokas really is whether Al Manas is retroactive or not. Now, if Rav Yehuda says that, so Adamiflagi, b'mehayom ulachar misa, so in this Bryce over here, we have a machlokas Chacham and Rebbe in the case of mehayom ulachar misa. But why argue in a case of mehayom ulachar misa, livlagi b'Al Manas? Why don't we instead say that why don't we instead bring in the Bryce of the machlokas by Al Manas? And the Gemara says to that, Lahodiacha kocho de Rebbe. The reason why we specifically have in this Bryce of machlokas mehayom ulachar misa is we want to tell you the strength of Rebbe. What do we mean to say? We mean to say that Rebbe would even say in a case of Mehayom Ulachar Misa, obviously in the case of Al Manas, he's going to say it's retroactive, but maybe Mehayom Ulachar Misa, maybe the person is retracting. He said Mehayom initially, and now he's changing his mind and saying Lachar Misa, so we want to show you the strength of Rebbe that even in this case, the get is chal retroactively. And the Gemara says, V'liv l'gubi Al Manas ulo diacha kochen de Rabbanan, but why doesn't the Bryce instead bring the machlokas by Al Manas? That would show us the strength of the Rabbanan, that even by Al Manas it's not retroactive. And the Gemara says to that, Koach de Hatera Adifle, it's better to bring the strength of the position that's lenient. Rebbe over here is saying she's mutter. He's saying it's a good get, even in the case of Mehayom Ulachar Misa, and the Brisa prefers to bring that Chiddush. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Al Manashe titni li mikan viad shloshim yom v'chulu. Let's say the husband says to his wife that it's going to be a gerushin on the condition that you give me the money. You have 30 days to give me the money. And so the Mishnah said, if she gives it within 30 days, then she's divorced. If she doesn't, she's not divorced. And the Gemara says, Pshita, isn't this obvious? The Gemara says, no, it's not obvious. What might you have said? Kipede, lav kipede. He's not really makbid that it has to be done within 30 days. Well, azarza kasi, he's just trying to encourage her to give the money quickly. Kamash malon. So the Mishnah is teaching us, no, this is considered hakpada. She needs to give the money within the 30 days. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Maisa b'Tzidon v'chulu. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said there was an incident in Sidon. The case over there was, he said that it's a divorce if you give me back my coat. And then she lost the coat. And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said she doesn't have to give the coat, she could give the value as well. And the Gemara says, "My tana the katani ma'isa." So what was being taught in the Mishnah that we're suddenly bringing this incident? We didn't have any cases similar to this at all. And the Gemara says, "Chisure mechsera v'achi katani." There are words missing in the Mishnah, and it should read as follows: Imamar la manas shetitni li. It's delasi. Let's say he says to her that the divorce is going to be chal on the condition that you give me my coat. V'avdit it's delisa, and then she loses his coat. And so the question is as follows: It's delasi davka ka'amar la. So the first time it says no, it has to be my coat. If I don't get that back, it's not a divorce. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, he argues and says, no, Titan lo estamel, she can just give him the value. V'yom Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, Ma'isa nami b'Tzidon. That's why we bring the incident. There was an incident like this also in Sidon. B'yachad shamar le'ishto hareza gitech al menashe tidni li. It's the lacy with an individual who said to his wife, this is your get on the condition you give me my coat. V'yavdit it's the lisa when she lost his coat. V'yamru chachamim titan lo estamel. And in that incident, the chachamim said that she gives the value, and therefore this is evidence to Rav Shimon ben Gamliel's position. And the Gemara continues, Boy minei Rabbi Yasi mi Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yasi asked Rabbi Yochanan the following question: Hareza gitech al menashe titni li masayim zuz. Let's say the husband says to his wife, this is your get on condition that you give me 200 zuz. V'chazar v'yamala, but then he says to her, mechulim lach, I forgive it, you don't need to give me the money. Ma'u, what's the halacha? And the Gemara says, Tiboy l'Rabbanan, Tiboy l'Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. This would be a question according to the Rabbanan, and would be a question according to Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, meaning we had a machlokas now between the Rabbanan and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Let's say she loses the coat, can she give the value instead? The Rabbanan say she cannot. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says she can. Over here, where he's mochel the money, it's a question according to both opinions. Tiboy l'Rabbanan. Number one, it's a question according to the Rabbanan. Adkan lo kamri Rabbanan hasam ela delo achla gabo. The Rabbanan only say it over there where it's not specifically been, the person hasn't been been mochelit, meaning to say she lost his coat and he didn't forgive her. So the Rabbanan say the value is not good. She has to give the actual coat. But over here, the husband is saying explicitly to her, the money is forgiven, you don't need to pay me. So maybe she doesn't need to pay. Maybe. Even Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, he only allowed it by the case of the coat, because at least she's giving him something. She's giving him the value of the coat. But to say it's totally forgiven, that we don't say. So in any case, this was a question Rav Asi asked Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan responded. He said to him, Eina megureshes, she is not divorced. He's not able to say, Mechulim lach, that I'm going to forgive you and you don't need to give me the money. And the Gemara continues, we have a question from the following Mishnah in Nedarim. Let's say somebody says to his friend, a konim, you cannot derive benefit from me if you don't give to my son 1 quart of wheat and you don't give to my son 2 barrels of wine. If you don't do that, then you are not going to be able to derive benefit from me. In other words, he's making this neder in order to essentially tell the person, I want you to give this gift to my son. Rabbi Meir Omer Asar Ad Sheyitin. Rabbi Meir says he's forbidden. The guy's not allowed to get benefit from the other individual unless he gives the money. In other words, the neder is chal if he doesn't give not the money, rather if he doesn't give the kor echad shel chitin, if he doesn't give the wheat and the barrels of wine to the person's son, so the neder is going to be chal. He won't be able to get benefit from the person. The Chachamim say avze yochel lahateres nidro. Even here in this case, he's actually able to undo the neder. Shelo al pi chacham. He doesn't even need to go to a chacham. How can he do that? Because he can say, the father can say, Hareini ki'ilu iskabalti. It's as if I received it. In other words, he essentially says, I no longer need you to give this gift to my son. It's considered as if we've already received it, and therefore the neder would not be chal. That's the opinion of the Chachamim. And so what do we see from over here? We see from over here that according to the Chachamim, the person can essentially forgive it. And yet Rabbi Yochanan said he's not able to forgive it. And the Gemara says, Hachi hashta, what kind of comparison are you making? Hasam litziyura kamechaven. Over there, in the case of the divorce, he's trying to inflict pain upon her, meaning he's trying to say, you need to give me this money in order to be divorced. V'lo tziyara. And that didn't happen. He can't simply forgive it. But hacham misham harvachu. But over here, the whole point is he wants his son to receive this gift. V'halo itzrich. Now he doesn't need the gift. And so therefore he's able to say that the neder is no longer going to be chal. And the Gemara continues, how Gavra do Amar Leile Arise, there was an individual who said to his sharecropper, Kuli almo dolu tlos dalvasav achli riva. Everybody waters my field 3 times, and they get 1/4 of the produce. That's their payment. But at doli arba, but I want you to water it 4 times, and you'll receive more. V'yachol til, so you'll receive 1/3. L'sofasa mitra. Now in the end, he watered it 3 times, and he didn't need to water it a 4th time because it ended up raining. So Amar Rav Yosef says, Halo Dala, he didn't water it a 4th time, he doesn't get the extra payment. Rabba Amar Rabba says, Halo it's tricha, but it didn't need to be watered a 4th time, and therefore he still should receive the extra payment. And the Gemara says, Lema Rav Yosef to Amar Karabbanan. Let us suggest that Rav Yosef follows the Rabbanan. That's talking about in our Mishnah. Let's say he says it's only a divorce if you give me my coat. The Rabbanan say that she needs to give the actual coat. The value won't work. And that's exactly what Rav Yosef is saying over here. It doesn't matter that the field ended up being watered. He didn't actually water the field. The Rabba Damar Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, and Rabba, he holds like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Rabba says, just like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says she doesn't need to give the coat, she can give the value. So too Rabba says he doesn't actually need to water the field as long as it gets watered. But the Gemara says, V'tizber, is that really logical? But we hold that the halach is like Rabba. And in terms of the case of the Mishnah with the coat, the halach is not like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. So you can't say that Rabba follows Rav Shimon ben Gamliel if we paskin like Rabba, but we don't paskin like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. And so the Gemara says, Ela liolam k'Rabbanan. Rather, we're really going to say that both Rav Yosef and Rabba, they both follow the Rabbanan, meaning in the case of the coat, she actually has to give the coat in order to be divorced. She cannot give the value. Rav Yosef k'Rabbanan. Rav Yosef is obviously like the Rabbanan. Just like the Rabbanan say she has to give the actual coat, so too Rav Yosef says he actually has to water the field. But Rabba will say to you, I can follow even the Rabbanan. Adkan lo ka'amri Rabbanan hasam ela delitziyura kamechavin. The Rabbanan say their halach over there because he's trying to cause her pain, he's trying to vex her, meaning in that situation, he wants her specifically to give back his coat. It's easy for her to give the value of the coat, but he wants her to have to give the actual coat. If she doesn't do it, she's not going to be divorced. But over here, the only reason that he wants the sharecropper to water the field a 4th time is because of this benefit that it's going to bring. And right now it's not necessary because it ended up raining, and so therefore the sharecropper is still entitled to the extra payment. And the Gemara continues to Nan Hasam. We learned in a Mishnah over there. This is a Mishnah in Erchin. Barishona hayanitman yom shnei masar chodesh. This is talking about a situation, as Rashi explains, hayanitman hakone bayis bi'ir choma. The case over here is a person buys a house in a walled city, and the halach is the seller has an ability to redeem the house back, to get the house back for 12 months. So what would happen in the beginning was hayanitman yom shnei masar chodesh. So the buyer would hide when it was the end of the term of the year. He would hide on that last day. That way the seller would not be able to find him. He wouldn't be able to give the money and redeem the house. That way it would be a permanent sale, and the purchaser would be able to keep the house. That's like what the pasuk says. If he doesn't redeem it and the year goes by, so then it goes to the buyer. So originally, hayanitman yom shnei masar chodesh. That's what it means. Originally, the person who bought the house would hide on the last day of the 12 months, in order that it would be a permanent sale. And so the sellers were not able to redeem their house. Hiskin Hil Hazakin, so Hil Hazakin instituted that instead the seller could deposit the money into the chamber of the Beis Hamikdash. He could break down the door of his house, he could take back his house, and he could enter. And the person who bought the house, whenever he wants, he could go to the Beis Hamikdash and he can get his money. And that was a way to allow the seller to redeem and to get back his house, even though the buyer would try to hide from the seller. V'yomar Rav, and so Rava said, based on this Mishnah in Erchin, mitakonaso shel Hillel nishma, from this takon of Hillel, we can understand as follows. Let's apply this to our case. Let's say the husband says to the wife, this is your get on condition that you give me 200 zuz, v'nosna lo, and she gives him the money, midaito migureshes. If she gives him the money, he willingly accepts the money, then she's divorced. That's considered giving the money. But al karcho eina migureshes, but if she would give it to him against his will, that would not be a divorce. Now, how do we know that? We know that because we see that in the case of Erchin, if he gives the money, if the seller rather gives the money to the buyer against his will, apparently it didn't work. That's why Hillel needed to make a special takana to deposit the money in the Beis Hamikdash. That's only over there where Hillel made the takana. From the fact that Hillel needed to make a takana, nesina bal karche, the havel nesina, to say that giving against the will here in this specific case, it's going to count from a special takana. You can deposit it in the Beis Hamikdash. It sounds like it's only going to work over there, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Hey Amud Aleph.